Okay.
So, which camera are we looking at? Any one of those ones. Okay, gotcha.
Good Thursday afternoon, guys. My name is Jerry Miller, and welcome to the I Love CVille Show. Thank you kindly for joining us on an absolute glorious day to be alive. We're live in Charlottesville, across Central Virginia, the Commonwealth, the country, and the world on the I Love CVille Network. Today's show is going to be absolutely dynamic. Let me get a couple logistics and items out of the notebook out of the way first before we introduce you to Anwar and Laura Allen. A duo of tremendous proportions, serial entrepreneurs that you are absolutely going to fall in love with. I know, I certainly have. Before we get to Laura and Anwar, we'll thank some of the fantastic folks that make the program possible. Ting Fiber Internet powers the network. It's truly crazy fast internet. They power our building here, the Macklin Building on Market Street as well. Scott Wagner of Scott Wagner Integrated Medicine is changing people's lives, guys. Scott Wagner of Scott Wagner Integrated Medicine. And one of our newest partners is Skooma Boutique Dispensary. Joanna Breslin has her JoJo's Apothecary there. Gina has her fantastic art there. David is just running a brick and mortar retail that's approachable, that's welcoming, and that's championing other business owners in this community. And that's why we're proud to partner with Skooma Boutique Dispensary. Judah Wickhauer is our North Star, in a lot of ways our moral compass. Truly one of the most high character, God-fearing, amazing people that I have met, Judah Wickhauer. I mean that, my friend. If you can go, Judah, to the studio camera, please, sir, and let's welcome just an amazing couple, and Laura and Anwar Allen to the set. How are you guys?
Very well. Thank you for having us, Jerry.
It's great to have you. You know, I feel like I know you.
Yeah.
You've come on the show,
Yes.
although digitally and virtually.
Yes.
I cannot wait to spend some time
Thank
with this
you.
beautiful woman next to you here.
Amen.
You've done an amazing job right here, Anwar.
15 years, actually.
15 years of marriage?
We just celebrated 15
Yeah.
It's amazing.
3 days ago, 4 days ago.
You just renewed your vows.
Yes,
Yeah.
we did.
Okay, so
Yeah.
why don't I start there? So you're kind of leading it. I like it.
Yeah.
What's the secret to 15 years of marriage?
Oh my gosh, the secret to 15 years. Okay, you know what? Community.
Okay.
I was going
yeah.
to say the same thing.
Yeah,
Totally.
the secret is people. I think the secret to life, but is finding people that are somewhat like you, that have the same goals and are farther down the road than
Right.
you are. So if they've seen it, done it, experienced it, you know, a random book I'll throw out there is. I think it's called The Dream Giver. No, not The Dream Giver.
Wilkinson?
Yeah, it's a Bruce Wilkinson book, and it's about getting a dream and going through different stages. And when you're in those different stages, you'll meet people in your wilderness, desert time, and they might even meet you in a little oasis, or they might show you where there's an oasis. They'll show you how to get wisdom, how to get information. For instance, I don't know what the statistic is, but there's like 60% or 70% of married people that have a college education stay together for very long periods of time.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's because of resource. You understand that there's resource. You understand intellectually that you might not be right all the time and you might need some help. So, I mean, your community.
Do you remember where we learned that fact? It was my grandma.
Oh, man.
My
Was it-
Scottish grandma, we eloped in the woods
Okay.
during a UVA college vacation as undergrads, and while my grandmother was in Scotland. And,
That's amazing.
And then I talked to her that night
UVA
about
undergrads going to the woods and eloping.
well because
All
there's-
students.
right, they did that on Braveheart. They got married in the woods, so I was like, could we go in the woods?
That is amazing.
Yeah, so,
when
yeah.
she says this to you, what was going through your mind there, Anwar?
So it was my idea. So we watched Braveheart, and sad movie, by the way, spoiler alert. If you haven't seen it 20 years after the fact.
Triumphant though.
Yeah, and they get married, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you got to get married. I mean, the whole scenario is I'm a camp counselor. I think I'm on an 18-hour furlough. They give you a 24 and 18-hour, and we had just started living differently in our lives. So we had cut out a lot of friends. We started, I mean, I was totally different. I was like going to church and stuff like that. I was a choir boy essentially.
You kind of would have had to know us in college to realize why that was really radical.
Oh, well,
I was in a frat. I was in a frat. I was on Rugby Road.
Okay.
I didn't make it to a lot of classes, and if I did, I was. You might. I don't know. I was. I don't know.
I've been there.
I was
I know what
there.
you're saying.
Yeah, I don't know if I was there all the way, and so we both were like, you know, we want to be together. We want to live our life right, and the only reason I went up there to Massachusetts was because, you know, I wanted to be close to her, meet her family, all that stuff. And I was kind of talking her into dating me again.
Again?
Yeah, we dated in college. And after, like, we were together for like 3 years in college, basically playing house. And because I didn't have any I wasn't goal-oriented or anything like that. I didn't even know what I was going to do after college. You know, she's graduating in 06. She's a little older than me. And so she's like, all right, I don't know if this is going to work out. The life you're living, the lifestyle you're living, you're a little boy. You know what I'm saying? And, you know, so I had to catch up a lot, you know. So in our little time apart, she goes up to Massachusetts, back home. And I'm like, man, I think I messed up. Like a lot of stuff. I lost my girlfriend. I took a year off from school because my dean brings me in. Forgot his name.
Dean McGuire?
No, was it?
I don't think so.
No, not Dean McGuire. I can't remember his name now, but he's a cool dude. And so he sits me down and he says, look, I know that you have the capacity to do though. I've seen, you know, your transcript, all that stuff. But you got to take a year off because the way you're going, it's just not going to work out, and you know you're going to fail out, and then you won't have a chance to come back or anything like that. So, the way UVA works, they want high rates of success because it looks good for the business. So, anyways, so I left, go home, get my life together. We're talking on the phone on AIM actually.
Yeah.
Instant Messenger. Go ahead.
You remember your handle?
Yeah.
Mine was water bottle.
Water bottle 05. And then, when she broke up with me, it was in the now 05.
Oh, there we go.
She definitely put that on me.
She was back in the game.
Yeah, before Facebook, you could go with a different screen name. And then mine was like UVA Soccer Man because I was.
Oh my gosh,
thinking,
memories.
I was thinking I was going to walk on to the soccer team. I was there. I got cut by Gelnevich. Shout out to Gelnevich. He made a good decision. There were some other good players ahead of me that were taking their life more seriously. And so I go up to Massachusetts as a soccer camp counselor, and I get the bunk with 13-year-old Jewish boys. I didn't know it was a Jewish camp. So they're doing their bar mitzvah, I think it is. I don't know.
It's bar.
It's bar. Mm-hmm. And they're memorizing the Pentateuch, the first 5 books. I'm a newly converted Christian. So I'm like, back home, I mean, nobody was, you know, into that. So I'm the weird guy who's like reading the Bible and all that stuff. So we talked about it. And I'm all trying to get, you know, thinking about marrying her. So my whole focus was like, you know, got to get her back, you know. So it's like a mission. And
he's a fantastic salesman.
I can tell.
And you know,
I'll give you all my money right now.
So, and you know what's so funny? I save up money for rings. I'm a thrifty guy. They had a Zales outlet there. And you can get your ring, you know, people getting married out there, you know, if you want to get your rings half off, you can. It might have failed for somebody else, but
because he used like his entire camp earnings on our
I didn't
wedding
go out and party with all the other people.
No, he saved every penny. It was really
sweet. You coming out of it? Nah.
So he won you back, obviously. I mean, what do you remember here? Let's get this beautiful lady in the mix. What do you remember of this?
Well, I loved him so much in college. Like it was like meeting myself. It was the weirdest thing because.
So you knew right away?
No, because he presented himself. He was going through his like.
I mean, he was a young man.
He was kind of going through like this major.
I was in my Jay-Z.
Yeah, I can relate. So he was like
Biggie.
You had some freedom.
But he actually, his mother like kills it in DC. Like she was on the cover of the Washington Post with Obama. Like she's super successful immigrants from the Caribbean who came and live in the suburbs. So he was in like all this, like he lived in the suburbs in this super privileged like outside of DC lifestyle. But he was pretending to be like like Jay-Z or whatever, Biggie Smalls. And I was just like, why do you keep hitting on me? This is like, I really can't relate. I don't even understand. I really don't relate. And then we ended up in a class together.
This is the story I remember.
Yeah.
And didn't you stand up and have his back? You tell the story.
Yeah.
You've told the story to me.
Well, I went to, excuse me.
Yeah, tell me what class was it?
Well, it was an African American Studies class.
And were you the only white person?
Forever. I was always the only white.
There's always one white girl and one white dude probably who were like down with the cause.
And that happened because I was raised on a horse farm in upstate New York, like in the Hudson Valley, where there were literally no black people. And so it was kind of a folk fest hippie place, and if there was prejudice, it was like Jews and WASPs versus old money, new money, Italians. But there was still prejudice that was all still felt, but it wasn't the black-white prejudice. And so because I grew up in this kind of bubble, I was under the very false impression that racism was dead. And then I went to the University of New York at Stony Brook.
That's where you started?
Mm-hmm. And I did 3 semesters there.
I didn't know that.
Who knew? And I transferred to UVA.
Okay.
And I lived across the hall from the girls' basketball team.
Okay.
And they're all from the city, like from Brooklyn, from the actual neighborhood of Biggie Smalls.
Flatbush.
Not from like the suburbs of D.C.
To my defense, I have half brothers and sisters who are from New York, so I used to spend a lot of time in New York.
Okay.
So,
I'm not judging.
I can do my thing up in New York. I can live,
And I was
survive.
like a little, yeah, he totally gets it right. I was a little like, I was like really seeking. So I saw the only reason I came to UVA, here's more embarrassing. Gosh, we're not talking about anything we planned to.
We
This
can
is
talk
more
about
fun. I picked UVA. I got rejected from Dartmouth because I really wanted to go to an Ivy League school. So Stony Brook was kind of like a detour. I remember one of the girls from boarding school taking me to her house in Fire Island. This is a very telling, embarrassing, true story. And so she brings me to her house and she says, Laura Brooke, because they called me Laura Brooke. Laura Brooke, we were so concerned when we found out you were going to a SUNY. Thank God you're going to UVA.
What?
Yeah.
And did you just start laughing?
I was like, oh. So I felt a tremendous pressure to go to an Ivy League school, but I only got one application in, and I got rejected from Dartmouth. And I had picked UVA because I'd seen the Dave Matthews Band 16 times in concert.
Wow.
And so I knew they were from Charlottesville, and I knew it was a good school, like acceptable.
Get out.
And that's how that happened. I hadn't researched it. I didn't come see it. I just knew that they were here. And
So how does the basketball team?
oh, right. So that was an amazing 3 semesters, and I took all these African American music and literature classes because I wanted to impress a friend from high school who really liked Bob Marley.
Wait, was this a guy friend?
Mm-hmm, it was my first boyfriend.
Okay. You obviously know this story already.
Hello, Oliver.
Oliver.
It wasn't
Tell
Oliver.
the mention. Oliver got a shout out today.
Or it wasn't Oliver. He was the guy that liked
Oh my
you.
gosh.
You never dated him. I know what you're talking about. Anyways, keep going.
We try not to discuss past flames.
Yes, it's a good roll of thumb.
And so
How do you stay married for 15 years?
yeah, that. And so I wanted to impress this high school boyfriend, and I took these classes to do so, and because he really loved Bob Marley and he played the acoustic guitar, and that was my way of trying to do that, and it was unsuccessful, by the way. So, but what was successful is that I started to hear these stories, and so we would read this literature, African American literature, and the kids in the class from Queens and Brooklyn and the city, Staten Island, they would talk about like police brutality that they had encountered, or somebody getting shot on a train that they had been on, and I was just like, what? And I was like, no, does that really still happen? Is racism still a thing? And it was kind of this like, I was really late to the party on that conversation. I was like 19 or 20, and just finding out about the world. And like, I also think I had the false impression, because I did grow up in the North, that like if there was racism, it was in the South.
Oh, in the South.
It was certainly
not
not
in
in
the
New York, because we were supposed to be kind of like
Open-minded,
the other side of the Civil War,
The Union.
Yeah.
right? Like it was kind of like that. Like those are the Confederates and this is the North, and we won, and we're not racist, and they are, and maybe there's some of that still left. That was kind of the extent of my really not very well-informed understanding of racism. And so I would listen, and I would sit in class, and I would cry, and all these kids would like, at some points I just felt like it would almost become a circle instead of like a lecture, and people would want to tell me their stories. And I, because it was very discussion-based, but it sort of seemed to be like, thank you for listening. Actually, let me tell you another crazy story that pertains to the text. And then I would try to write essays on the subject, and I would always, they were like, you have no idea what you're talking about. But I kind of got, I would just sort of regurgitate what I was trying to learn, but I didn't have any personal experience to speak of, you know? And because I was an English literature major, I kept taking these classes when I transferred at UVA in Lit. So I kept taking Black Studies classes, basically. Totally by mistake, I ended up with, I'm 3 credits away from a double major in African American Studies, which I found out when I went to get my diploma. And I was like, man,
I totally would have done that, right? You were 3 away.
Yeah, I didn't do it on purpose.
We actually did an elective together over the summer.
But I feel like I birthed 3 Black children. Maybe that can be my 3 credits. I don't know. Maybe I need to go back to school. I don't know.
That's 12 credits.
Yeah.
You should make that pitch to Jim Ryan.
Yeah,
that's
a good idea.
12 credits, dude. That's like a degree.
And restoring communities.
I guess we're just, once I went in, I threw a party, not a party, like a peace vigil.
A vigil.
Because there was a football party, and at the time that I was at the university, if there were more than 300 Black students gathered, there had to be police on site, but not if there were more than 300 white students or any other color, just Black. And
really?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
And so I always assumed, as did most people, that that was because they, in case a fight broke out, there would be protection on site. But one night, Ahmad Brooks.
It was Jermaine Winborn.
And Jermaine Winborn.
I know Jermaine Winborn well, and Ahmad Brooks. Ahmad Brooks was a linebacker, UVA football. Right. Jermaine Winborn, a defensive back, played for the Baltimore Ravens. Brooks had a good career in the NFL.
Yeah, he played for the 49ers.
Yeah,
okay. Super Bowl.
I think Jermaine was at Giants. He was a New York Giants first, I think, Jermaine, right? Okay. And so my suite mate in Gooch Dillard was the trainer. And she looked kind of like Halle Berry, so she was very popular with the football players. And so I saw her at, where's the place everybody partied in the corner, the football players?
Oh, man. Was it the Biltmore?
Yes,
was it O'Neill's?
I was at the Biltmore.
Okay.
I feel like I'm talking about someone else. But yes, once I was in the Biltmore on like a Thursday or Friday night, as one was. And she came up to me with her group of friends, and she was weeping, and she's like, she was dating Jermaine. And she was like, Jermaine just got shot. Can you come with us to the emergency room? And so I went to the ER, and nobody was allowed in the UVA emergency room because there had been a shooting. And so everybody, all the football players and girlfriends were kind of just there. And I am like, we need to write an article for CVille. We need to write an article about this. This needs to be written about for the Cavalier Daily. And so I ask for a piece of paper and a pen inside. They let me get that, or they go in and get it for me. And I walk over to Ahmad, and I'm because I know he's his roommate, because, of my roommate, CC. And I'm so what happened? Tell me what happened. And he's well, we went up to the police and said, we've heard that somebody who we think has schizophrenia has a gun. And he's threatening to come in and shoot a football player. He's been kicked out of UVA, and he's back. And we went up to the police who were at the party and asked them to deal with this, and they did nothing. And it became super clear at that moment that the police were there to protect the other students from the gathered Black kids, not placing value on the Black students and protecting them. That was. And so it took me 5 seconds to figure out what happened. Nobody knew what had happened. It was why isn't anyone else asking these questions? And everyone just looked super traumatized. That was the same year that Daisy Lundy, do you remember that? Were you there for that? She was student class president.
Yeah, the drive-by, and wasn't it something screamed by out the window? That was a derogatory word?
They did that, and then they wrote the N-word on her.
Somebody took feces, frat boys, and wrote the N-word on her window shield outside of the lawn, on the range. She was parked somewhere around there. And, yeah, they wrote the N-word on her and like a note, like nobody wants, I can't even say the word, for class president. And I remember, like, the climate of the school. I was just like, here's a yellow, like, what do you do? They're trying to get people to wear these little yellow bows the next day to, like, support Daisy, and, like, we don't stand by that. And this was the early 2000s, and nobody would wear the bows. Only the black kids would wear the bows. And I remember being on the bus and, like, having because remember we'd take the bus back to the dorms?
Oh, yeah.
And so it was, like, me with the bow and all these, and I, like, had, like, a huge fight with all these, like, white kids. Like, I think they felt safe fighting with me, and I felt safe fighting with them. Like, it was a full-on, like, why aren't you wearing the bow? And they were like, why are you making a big deal about this? Like, just overlook it. We don't need to wear a bow to acknowledge. It was just such a, like, non-response. And that really stayed with me, I think, because I wasn't raised around here. So to me, all this was still shocking. And anyway, so fast forward a few months later, and this happens with Jermaine, and everyone just looks defeated. Like, nobody's going to do anything about this. Nobody's going to really even care. It's just going to keep going as it is. And it was finals week. I just remember a friend being like, it's finals week, do your homework. But it was finals.
Organizing a vigil for NBC
I called
29.
the, like, head of the African American department, and I was like, he was in California.
Yeah, I remember him.
He's not there anymore. And I was like,
Reggie?
I don't think we should say names. And I was just like, this is what happened. These kids are kind of walking around in shock and trauma. I think we need to, like, have a peace gathering and, like, get candles and talk about it, do something at the amphitheater. And he's like, well, it's a student-run university, so go ahead, you do it. And so I called NBC 29. I wrote an email, because there's some poem called SOS, Calling All Black People, that I think James Baldwin wrote. I don't know. So we made the subject SOS, Calling All Black People. And it was like, gather at the amphitheater. We're going to have candles, and we're going to discuss this. And all these football players were, like, in a semicircle on the amphitheater with their candles, with NBC 29 there, tearfully discussing, like, are we responding to the way we're being treated, or are we creating the culture in which this kind of, like, response is needed? And, like, which seems kind of like gaslighting to me all these years later. Like, actually, I don't think those are the right questions to be asking themselves, but it just sort of showed, and there's just sort of an opportunity to express, like, give word to the trauma, like, honor the trauma and, like, the situation, and kind of move on in solidarity. And that summer I was in Spain as a au pair. And terrible job. I didn't last very long at that. I ended up in a lot of youth hostels having fun after that. But I was briefly an au pair in Spain. And I didn't think I'd be a mom. I really couldn't imagine ever. It's amazing to me how much I love children, actually. But I was very self-absorbed in my early 20s. And
we all were. I
just wasn't the right person for that particular 8-year-old. And so I was in Spain, and the head of the African Studies department at the time, texts me or emails me, wants to talk to me, and he says, I want to meet you when you're back at school, come into my office. And so I go in when I get back to school, and he's shocked that I'm white.
How could you tell he was shocked?
Well, he just looked overtly shocked. I guess my perception was that he was like, oh, hi. I think that was the first time he realized that this person that had been kind of organizing this and doing this was white. And so...
a white woman from upstate New York, Hudson Valley.
Yeah, and I said to him, I'm going to graduate this year. Like, it's my 4th year. What do I do? Should I, like, join the NAACP, or what do I do? And I want to change the world, you know? And he's like... teach your kids not to be racist. You're really not wanted here. There's really actually not. Don't join this cause. Like, you're not really wanted. Which
he said that to you?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Which was
kind of not wanted in the cause of equality and social
justice.
It
was kind of crazy.
And you're 21?
Mm-hmm. 4th year.
Good gosh.
Mm-hmm. And I remember
How did you handle that?
Well, there's kind of still a streak in me, of course. So I remember being like, that was harsh, but also thinking like, I bet my kids are going to be black because I know who my boyfriend is. So.
Did you say that to him?
No. I was very intimidated. Like, I felt very put in my place. And he was a dean, and it was just not really. Young. And I was kind of like excited about this. Well, it actually, in some ways, I think wasn't the worst advice.
Why is that?
Well, I think there's some truth to it at some points, first of all.
How so?
I don't know. I mean, this is how I think it was helpful advice. I think that it was helpful. I don't really know if it was helpful advice or not, but this is where I've seen it work out in my personal circumstance. It put a fire in me that what was in me, what I carried in me for a desire for equality, for a desire for justice, that should I have daughters, that they could actually carry that so much further than I could. And so it kind of put this like passion in me as a mom because Samaria, for instance, would be, she's going by Aria now, I keep forgetting.
It's your oldest.
She's 13.
Yeah.
She'll be significantly, like he would never have said that to her if she came in, you know? And so I just feel like she has.
Was what he was doing there?
Reverse racism.
It's really part of, I think, why people are so frustrated. Because it's like, in so many ways, I think people feel like, what can we do to help? If we do this to help, then that's not right. And I just feel like people, I don't think what my experience was all that uncommon, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like, I think we all, as a culture, are trying to figure out how to move forward well and together. And there doesn't seem to be the breadth of conversation needed to kind of come to that. And also it's difficult because let's say one white person, one black person sit down and come up with a solution for moving forward with these issues. That doesn't necessarily represent all black people, right? Or all white people. And so that's what I found as a student. Like, I would kind of like regurgitate what I learned in the class before to the new professor, and I'd always like, I could never get an A in any of those classes. Because it was like, people could only kind of share their own, you can only lead where you've been yourself, you know? And none of those answers are the same.
Questioning your authenticity.
Oh, yeah. There was definitely, I think he was of an older generation, and I think I made him, well, I think he was in a position of authority over me, and he knew he could pretty much say what he wanted, and he did. And I guess what I took from that, like I said, was I have to work smarter, not harder. You know, like how can I use my life? What's in my hand that I can pour out to affect change if possible? And I don't know. We just got back we went on vacation to North Carolina.
Both you guys?
Because we renewed our vows, so then we went and spent 3 nights at the coast.
Oh, this is just recently?
Like last week.
Yeah.
And I felt really hopeless after that. Yeah, about this issue, honestly. Like, because in Charlottesville, if anything, it's almost gotten a little silly. Like, people will be like, hello, you're the welcome. Would you like my spot in line? And I'm like, no, I'm just buying lettuce.
She's with me.
My children. Like,
it's a lovely experience. No.
Why is that?
Well, because it's ever since the Floyd thing.
You're basically saying this is white guilt.
I don't know that I'm saying exactly that. I think what I'm saying is people need to have more conversations with each other to say, like the beauty of Charlottesville right now is that
people are loving on people.
They're like, I feel like every time we walk by in Wegmans.
People ain't giving up their spot in line to me to go to Wegmans here.
No.
Oh, nah, but I was walking, I can't remember, it was Costco, and I was walking, and you know how kids are just aimlessly walking, little 8-year-old kid, and so he goes before me, and, you know, to walk, and his mom was like, no, you know, like, and I'm a skit writer in my head, so I could have been totally wrong, but I was like, in my mind, I was like, don't you know that everybody's equal now, and that black man deserves a spot at that door just as much as you think
the mom is thinking.
Like, how could you embarrass us? We're not those people, Jimmy. Like,
and you're like, I'm a dad of 3 kids.
Yeah,
I totally get it.
I feel you. And I was like, no, it's all good. You know what I'm saying? So I totally understand where people are coming from, because the flip side has been total disregard for people.
I would rather that
20 years before now. Well,
and the conversation about Daisy Lindsay on the bus with the yellow ribbons. I would rather Charlottesville be kind of in this overcompensating state than like
kindness.
whatever.
Well, that ain't good.
I mean,
well, bald head. She was about to say when we went down to North Carolina, and they see a brother with a white girl. They're like,
you're saying you get a lot of double takes.
What is like the kids? Things have not changed
that much. I think that's where I felt
especially
really
where there's privilege and
because I do feel so much shift. Like at Fry Springs Beach Club, like they're being so intentional about like bringing in Black and Brown's children
inclusive
and giving them swimming lessons and giving them memberships if necessary, and like they're like going over the top, and it's actually been kind of I feel like it's been a very successful, beautiful shift. Like there was this email that went out, and it was like we acknowledged that this was a no blacks allowed swimming pool not so long ago, and these are the kind of reparations we're making to undo some of that. And I feel like it's Beth Bullard is the one who's really spearheading it, and she's actually adopted all these Black children in the course of her life. She's sort of like our local Mother Teresa. I'm surprised you don't know who she is.
No, I don't.
She should be on your show.
Yeah, please.
And she's amazing. And she, so she's sort of been leading really beautifully, like really thoughtfully and well, and naturally. It's just felt like this natural kind of like little love bubble. And we've been there long enough to see quite a shift in the demographic. And yeah, it isn't awkward, or it's just kind of ideal, sort of beautiful.
So I'll big up Charlottesville for that, because this is what Charlottesville is. It's transient community. People are open enough to allow their mindsets and paradigms to change. So it doesn't matter if you're white, Black, Chinese, Cuban, like whatever's going on in your life. You even understand that the systems you've thrived on might need some tweaking and changing. Not all people are the same. Not all people have the same back. There's so many different types of white people in Charlottesville, so many different types of Black people. You know, like everybody's bringing something different. And I think at the end of the day, people are like, you know what? I know somewhere, somehow, somebody that might look like me did something to somebody that looks like you know, or even you. So I'm gonna go out of my way to even be a face of love. You know what I'm saying? So me as a brother, when I see white people, I know that I might look like somebody that they might be afraid of, or might have seen on TV, or might have had some sort of interaction or negative interaction with. So I sometimes go out of my way to let people know, like, hey, like, we're not all the same, and hey, I love you. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, a brother loves you. Or I don't have any anger and hate in me. And you might think that I might have anger, like I might be you know, I don't. Because that's what some white people, I've noticed some white people think, oh, I'm sorry, I love you. You know what I'm saying? It's not me, I like you. You know what I'm saying? Hey, I'm cool with you. Everybody that comes as face value, just like a dollar bill. You know, I might inspect you, you know what I'm saying, to see if you're real, but I will definitely treat you as face value. And that's what I think Charlottesville is really good at. As
You're talking empathy.
Empathy.
I feel like there is which brings me to our serial entrepreneur.
Yeah,
also.
we can go if you want.
I feel like this kind of weaves in, like, because we can't just talk about problem without solution. Something Anwar and I have devoted ourselves to as a very tiny solution is every single Wednesday for the academic school year, we are directing what would be 7th and 8th grade in a Christian classical conversations homeschool environment. So it's a co-op called Classical Conversations, and we're directing those 2 sections. And one thing that has like compelled me with profound passion towards this is the fact that what they've discovered is in that middle school age range, that's when the kids are learning to debate. That's when they're super black and white on all issues, and they don't realize that there's nuance to everything. And I just feel like our culture has, especially after this last election year, honestly, like gotten to such a place where people are so sure about their opinions, and they're so sure that like they target the enemy, and you are this if you believe this.
On 5 topics.
And it's just, there's so much nuance. And I think what we're kind of expressing is like this, for instance, is a very complicated, nuanced conversation. Like, I think that the way that, that it has to be fleshed out is not on Facebook with a meme, and not with, like...
An argument in a comment section,
which
is like where it's happening. Social media is dividing this country. And I hate to say that because it's in a lot of ways our business, but this is causing a line in the sand to be drawn, and it's like you're either on that side or this side.
And that is really dangerous.
That's so dangerous. When the reality is, we're probably just all straddling the line.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like our nation never really got out of middle school in terms of their thinking. Like, there are those who are very nuanced thinkers, and that's kind of what happens in the challenge 1, 2, 3, and 4. This is called challenge A and B for 7th and 8th. But once they kind of get out of my section, hopefully they're starting to like express nuance, like their opinions on very nuanced issues. Consider it's like remember how we used to have to argue a thesis statement.
Yeah.
And then you had to make your 3 points as to why it was true, 3 points as to why the opposing argument could also be true. But then in the conclusion, I've determined that I still think I'm right.
Yeah,
right?
sure.
But you had to at least learn to like really, really hear the other side and play like a really strong devil's advocate on yourself. And that is excellent thinking. And so the hope with this program is that by the time they get to what would be like the 9th grade through 12th grade, they're really learning to express what they had to learn to even begin to think through, which is not everything is, there are so many truths at the same time, and we must learn how to like approach an issue with elegance and learn how to argue it whimsically and consider other people as we're speaking. And it's like we have them in this little conversation bubble where we go through all the major subjects in a conversational fashion. And so because we raised Samaria, like she's been in Christian school since...
She's 13?
Yeah, and she's been literally in Christian communities, like... I mean, I don't think she's ever not been in one. She was in like a Christian co-op homeschool as a
Small
preschooler.
ones too, where they're getting a lot of attention,
and then she was in First Trinity. Well, she's been to like every church.
The Park Street, and that's the best one in town. You know, man, there's parents that put their kids in that one, and they're not Christians.
Which one is that?
It's the First Baptist one.
I think
First
Trinity, the one on Park Street, that's a Episcopalian. Okay, so she went to the Episcopalian one for preschool, and then she went to the Park Street one for kindergarten.
Yeah, that's a hot one.
Well, I wouldn't say it's the best one. I personally,
it's one of the. There's
I
another
really
one,
love
though.
the Regent School Charlottesville.
Oh yeah, we love
with
Regents.
all my heart.
Yeah,
That's the best one. And so
I'm saying at the time that was the word on the street. Like, where do you put your kids?
So for first grade, because she got waitlisted at Regents, for first grade through 6th, she was at Regents, and then we've been in church communities, and so and they're predominantly white. And so all of a sudden I've got like, she starts saying things. I'm like, what did you just say?
Like what?
Let's put She just is kind of extreme, frankly. Like in a lot of, like a really insensitive comments. Like really, I'm not really comfortable giving specific examples if you don't mind. But like, she'll say things that are so stereotypical. And I'm like, that is vile. Like what you just said is so evil. Like let's sit and discuss what you just said and how let's consider if someone had this life experience, how they might have like felt about
your comments.
I'm just going to give one example. So she has really gotten, I feel like I don't love giving examples because I don't feel totally safe as Charlottesville business owners. Just that's what I think the problem in our culture is it's like if you even if you sit and like are like there might be many ways to look at this one thing, give me time to develop like my own understanding and my own empathy. That time seems to be illegal almost. Like if you're even pausing to consider the other person's perspective, you've chosen a side and you are the enemy, like target. That's how I feel. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that was very well said.
And it's just like, I don't align myself, like Jesus, if I could just, like to me, it's like he literally defied the government. Like the government decided to kill him. He died, and then he, I believe, rose again 3 days later, and was like, like if that doesn't say like faith in Christianity is literally above the government, I don't know what does. Like that to me is the ultimate example of maybe we should stop taking all this so seriously and let our identity be so drenched in this and go back to putting the first things first, which is we're called to love our neighbors and we're called to place value on people and we're called to lift others up. We're called to be salt and light. And I just don't think that people of my faith have done that well in many, many examples. And thank you for saying that. I just don't want to raise a child that is just repeating someone else's rhetoric. I want her to learn to be empathetic, to move with compassion towards people, to listen far more than she speaks, to weigh and take time to respond. I love that. I don't know if you remember Sustained Dialogue at UVA. It was this club, and it was like every day at Tuesday from 2 to 3 we meet and we have a conversation. And if the conversation is not over at 3, don't worry, next week we're going to pick right up. And it was a sustained dialogue. And I love that that is what this atmosphere is like. It's not our kid getting stuck in a school where they're being told what to think, regurgitate it back, but it's like, we're going to discuss this. You're safe to discuss it. You're safe to mess up as you discuss it. We're going to love each other through this. And guess what? You think about everything we've talked about through the week, read up on it some more, pray about it, and talk to your parents about it. And then we're going to gather back and we're going to pick up right here. But the thought that there's like, let's simmer for a while and then speak, as opposed to just like, delete, unfriend, unfollow, not buying that product anymore. And it's just like, what are we doing?
Yeah, we get some weird reviews on our sometimes.
No. I think people will appreciate this.
Oh, no, I'm just saying people.
You guys do.
We got cancel culture because our shortbread wasn't buttery enough.
Well, you're getting some props coming in right now. Let me acknowledge some of the viewers here. Donna Davis.
I love Donna Davis.
I love Donna. She cool.
Totally impressed with you guys. Aww. This is a fantastic and needed conversation.
Donna's cool.
We love
Donna's
you.
Cool people.
Thema Glover.
That's my sister.
Thema?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She's an educator.
She says
she's a principal.
So proud of you.
That's she's my older sister. Yeah.
She says the Bible said we liberate the world with the love of Jesus Christ.
Amen. Yeah.
Eric Flanagan Jr.
Love him.
That's my dude. He speaks like 3 languages.
Yeah. Christy Walker. Your sister just said, I love my brother very much.
Oh, I love him.
Just put that in the
we went down, actually, so after that trip, we went up to go see her and my other sister because her husband, he's actually a dude in the community. He's building houses. He's doing community engagement. I mean, his house, I believe, is going to be a place where people can come and get resources, a real estate agent type guy. So it was his 40-something birthday, and they're celebrating a bunch of years of marriage, too, so it's pretty cool. But anyways, both of my older sisters live down in North Carolina.
You got 6 states watching you here.
Cool.
That's cool.
6 states.
That's
watching
cool.
You guys.
Yeah.
Seaman Flanagan.
I totally know that name, but I don't think that's how you pronounce it.
Customer.
She's a Scottish.
Shortbread.
She's Scottish.
Thank you.
And she buys a bunch of our shortbread.
She does.
Awesome.
She does.
Thank you.
Linda Talafero, Christy Walker, Liz Wellbeloved.
Talafat. All these
giving
names.
you props. Liz says this: I'll be taking boxes of shortbread to Spain as gifts for colleagues and friends when I travel next month. I'm excited to introduce them to your delicious cookies.
That's what's up.
Thank you.
That's cool.
So let me throw this to you here. So this is a question that's coming into the feed from Jason. I think it's Garrett. Jason, if I'm saying your last name, is it Garay? It may be Garay. He says, from your experience, when do children learn racism first?
So this is what really freaked me out about North Carolina.
Go ahead.
I think... And because I didn't know this, I mean, you don't know till you know, that I don't know how to say this other than to just share my heart. In my personal experience, I'm not speaking on behalf of anyone but Laura Allen, I felt like when I chose to get married, in a lot of ways, I really gave up the privilege of anonymity. And I didn't realize how much privilege I had as a white woman until I was on the bus. We had just lived in the woods. We were back in Charlottesville, and we were taking the trolley to go on a date because we lived on Stadium Road, and who can afford parking and a date when you're married as undergrads?
Yeah.
So we were taking the trolley, and we were sitting in the back, and this black woman from Charlottesville turns around, and she looks at me, and she goes, "No, you didn't. I cannot believe," and I just got battered, verbally battered all the way to Downtown Mall, and I was like,
really?
Things just got real. It was like Save the Last Dance. What was the movie? I was like, oh, this is uncomfortable, you know?
And did you not respond back? You were so taken aback?
I think that we had a conversation, because when we were at UVA, we were unheard of. You just didn't see a whole lot of interracial couples that I can think of. Maybe some football players had some white
frankly,
girlfriends at
there was
parties.
not a lot of black men and women in Rugby Road.
No.
In fraternities.
Yeah.
I was the Phi Psi.
Yeah.
You know, and is that what you remember?
Well, I mean, in general, you might not see a lot of black people out anyways at that time, because all the black people hung out at Tuttle and the black bus stop. So at UVA,
And they had black parties.
yeah, and we had black
frats.
parties.
Yeah.
Like for a while,
I mean, from what I
UVA
remember,
was pretty.
so segregated.
And
Yeah.
black
Was it not?
dining
It
hall.
was.
Like
Yeah.
there's a black
And
dining
it wasn't
hall.
like there was hate or anything like that. It was just
Just like natural.
it was like high school. It was
Yeah.
like you do your thing. Like all the weirdo A schoolers goes over there. All your
what I
E
remember.
schoolers, you sit down in the math and science and you learn about building stuff and everything else. So like soccer players hung out with each other. It was like
Has
high
that
school.
changed? Do we know? I mean,
Probably
It seems like
has.
it. When I drive
because
through, I feel like I see more.
I think our culture. That's why I believe our culture is on the trajectory for a huge shift, because at a very young age, kids are learning some things that are just very outlandish still, but kids are learning some interesting things about other culture by way of hip hop, social media, TikTok.
Kardashians.
The
I'm like the
Kardashians?
only person I've ever heard of in my life. I remember
Kim, Mary, Kanye, all the
years
white
ago,
girls are like,
I was like, thank you.
Okay.
This is actually really helpful.
This
Like
is
she kind
doable.
of made it cool. And she's
This
not
is-
even white, but she at least wasn't black. And like it was actually
What about
made
Chloe
it more
with Lamar?
comfortable for
Oh,
me.
yeah.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Like, and I remember saying at
well,
the
forget the
Episcopal-
Bunny Ranch.
yeah, right.
Okay.
But when-
Chloe with Lamar.
well, yeah, when the brother does, they're like, you know what, it's okay. I can bring her home to mama now. She can't. No, I'm just saying.
But it was kind of unheard of before then in our culture. And I remember being at the Episcopal, like mom's group at preschool, and I was like, thank God for the Kardashians. They're like actually really helping make things more comfortable. And my friend, her name was Megan Headley, she was a food writer for CVille. She's like, I can't believe you just said that. I can't believe someone just said thank God for how the Kardashians have been helping our culture. But I actually felt that way. And so we didn't tell any of our friends. Like we met because
Did
we
you guys
college.
get married?
dating.
No, in college, yeah.
For months.
We got
Really?
married.
Yeah, it was totally a
Because
secret.
of-
Because we did not.
know.
I know. We didn't. I mean, I'm going to speak on behalf of both of us, but correct me.
But did they see you guys constantly together all the time?
No, we
No?
totally had a completely in the closet relationship.
Really?
Yeah,
Like
and
sneaking in the back door of the house?
like
Well,
I'd rather not get into details.
my, my first
Nobody
year, yeah.
knew. Well, we lived in dorms forever, so it made it a little bit easier. But all of our friends also lived in Goochstiller dorms, and Anwar lived in Hereford.
Well, it was also a social class thing at UVA. You don't want to date younger people.
Well, you weren't a first year anymore. That was on.
Yeah,
that was
UVA has a
not
thing
happening.
about first
Oh,
years.
Yeah.
For sure.
But-
First years are the bottom of the rung.
But the
That's a
second
different
year,
story.
like, I didn't want our friends to know because I was like, what if this is just not real? Like, what if I don't want to go through everything we're going to have to go to justify a relationship that might not even be worth fighting for. Like, let's.
Yeah, it's weird.
And he kind of had the same sense of like, I mean, I think you remember, like, if you made a statement that you were officially with somebody, irregardless of race, that was kind of a big deal because you
Sure.
were taking yourself off the market.
Especially in college.
In college.
Yeah,
And so
it's
to
a
just
weird
like
thing.
change your Facebook status was actually like pretty momentous in that age and that time. And so there's that alone, but then you add in the whole fact that nobody else was interracial. And then we went to my family in New York. He took
You go Hudson Valley.
Yeah.
You bring Anwar.
Only brother up there.
And the entire Hudson Valley.
Oh my gosh, yeah. They're like, is that Kobe? Like,
Did they say that? They did not say that.
I'm just saying, I'm 6'4", so they're like, what is he doing here? Where's he at? Because New Yorkers come into those places sometimes as
Yeah, we
tourists.
definitely got curious looks.
Yeah.
But then we went to Greenwich Village on the way home because we took the train home and we spent the night in New York City.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
And so, because the stop was in New York from where I lived. And so we went to Greenwich Village and,
Good pizza.
dude, I was just like, nobody's looking at us.
Yo, so we went into a
Like-
bar and nobody was looking at her.
Nobody even,
I was like,
we're
honey, they're
so
looking
invisible.
at me. What's going on? She was like, oh, we're in like a guy bar. I was like, oh.
It was a
got
major-
it. I was like, the red carpet was rolled out.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
So they were all about you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now I'm with you.
Young 6'4" black
Yeah,
guy,
dude.
you know?
Handsome fella right
And
here.
I'm just, dressed on the town, yeah. So
It was kind of like, I think before you saw drag queens on television, it was like, this is where the birthplace was of like
yeah,
the
because they
most
had the Greenwich.
expressive.
That actually that one bar we went to was raided by cops, and they went and beat a bunch of dudes that
So it has a history of kind of being.
Yeah.
So the mindset there was very open-minded.
Yeah.
Very.
It's like they didn't care.
No, nobody was looking at us. We could not shock anybody.
How about bringing her to your family?
Oh, that was cool.
And you got your family
the
watching
point of my
right now.
telling
That was interesting.
The point of my telling that, I just want to finish that, is that actually when we got back to school after that, we were like, this isn't our problem. This is UVA's problem.
Yeah.
And like, there's nothing wrong with us. Like, we love each other sincerely, and we're going to tell our friends, and they can get over it, and like, so can everybody else. And we're not going to like respond to the temperature. We're going to set the temperature. And I think that was kind of like the decision. Like, that was a turning point for Anwar and Laura Allen.
Yeah, and when I took her home, she was not like any of the people I'd grown up with. I'm from Stafford, Virginia. I was married
by the time you took me home. Were we married already?
Oh, no. I brought you up. Yeah, they brought you up. Yeah, I brought you up a couple of times.
It was tense.
And yeah. And so definitely, even before we were married, you came up a couple of times, and you were just definitely different. You're definitely different. Anybody, my parents, anybody, I mean, you're a very unique person. She was a hippie back in the day. Like, we connected over Jimi Hendrix.
Okay.
All right, love me some Jimi. So anyway, so there was a lot of different things about it. My mom was like, okay, she's definitely like, and you're different too. Like, I mean, I'm a weirdo, you know, so she knew. Like, I was just into all sorts of stuff. Love sports, love football, love basketball. I love classical music. I love the Beatles. Like, that's just like, I'm just that dude, you know. So, yeah, so she.
It was welcome. Was it welcome?
No.
Not completely.
No?
I think it's your baby, and knowing the climate, she was like, it's going to be tough for your kids.
Well, I
like,
think her mom had, she was raised in Holland for the first 16 years of her life. And then her father was like, he built all these beautiful hotels in Aruba. And so she had only, like Toni Morrison, you know who that is?
Yeah, the writer.
I'm super
Big
excited.
time.
She stayed at the hotel, which was a really big deal because
she was family
my
friends.
favorite writer.
Yeah, she was friends with our family.
Get out.
Yeah, so his mom had always been in the upper class, basically. And so when she came to school in New York as an undergrad, she dealt with classism, but she never dealt with it because she was received well. Yeah, but she'd never been like in Holland. They don't really. That's not like where people divide each other. And so it was Friday night, and she was headed to the clubs. And one of the girls, she said, "Where are we going?" And her roommate, who'd been so nice to her up until that point, said, "Well, I don't think you'll like it because I don't have your kind of music." And she was like, "What's my kind of music? What does that mean?" And it was sort of like, she, I think, like me, really had this very late in the game understanding of how the world was in that area. And it kind of put her on a long path of like...
So that's why she went to Howard.
So she went to Howard.
All her kids, I mean, her name and my dad's name are Christian, good Anglo-Saxon names. My name is Anwar Mir Sharif, which means luminous shining.
So their names are Pam and John, and he's Anwar Sharif.
My brother's Akeem Shabazz. My sister's Aisha Yana. My other brother is Ahmed Tariq. Like, these are strong,
they were like reacting.
Militant, black names.
Black Panther.
Like, my dad went to the church of Tupac Shakur's mom up in New York. Like, so they're like, they were in that stage where they're like, okay, like, we're not taking on the slave names. We're not taking on anything from anybody. Like, and they're grown up reading Malcolm X, reading Martin Luther King Jr.
And you did?
Yes.
Yeah, to watch the whole
Banneker. You're watching Roots, and you're telling me about it, and you're writing a paper about it, and you're gonna know that when you go into class, I ain't gonna call her out, but Miss So-and-so is not gonna put you in the regular reading class. If I hear that you were not in the focus group, I'm gonna come up in there. So yes, she went up in there. I was in the regular class, and my mom was like, no, he can read. I was reading before I was even in school. She was like, no, he can read just well as Billy and Johnny. Put him in the focus group. And the teacher was like, no. She was like, look, don't play with me. So I was in all the focus. I was one black dude and one Chinese girl in the focus up in the suburbs of Woodbridge. And they were about to put me, you know how it is. If you get on the wrong track in public school, you're done.
For sure.
So kiss AP and DE goodbye because you weren't in third grade or whatever it is.
Yeah,
you know
advanced
what I'm
track.
Yeah, so I was on but she made sure because she had experienced and seen firsthand what America was like. She wasn't from here. See what I'm saying? Both my parents I'm a first generation American. So by the grace of God, they were like, look, this is what you have to do to have your kid have any sort of track. Now imagine all the kids that might have so many giftings and talents, but the teacher says,
it judges them by their skin color.
"Yeah, all right,
says no.
Yeah, all right, Sharik, or whatever, you're here." They could be geniuses, you know what I'm saying, but not know it. You know
How
what
much
I'm
do
saying?
we think that's still happening?
It happens to everybody, and not just the whatevers. It happens
to snort.
all
So
the
you're saying
time.
constantly.
Well,
I think
I've
it's a
experienced the
system
need to
thing.
advocate,
It's an education system thing.
and
Not everybody has a mom like your mom.
No.
I think that was her way of. I think she's one of the most fiercely protective people on the planet, and I think that was her way of protecting and advocating for her son. I think having him watch all those movies, I think her reaction to me was like, "I'm not so sure you're on my team," So it's going to take a while, and it's taken a while, but I think we're friends.
Are you on the team now?
I really love her.
We good. Yeah,
I love her so
nobody's,
much.
nobody's perfect. Like I messed up
But
too.
it's been almost 20 years. I mean, it took a while to prove myself.
Yeah.
The first, so I go to his room to study for a test coming up, and he has like Jimi Hendrix playing and all these posters, and it's like cool, kind of hippie, just feel to his room. And then he has this Tommy Hilfiger bedspread that was brand new, and he has this like gorgeous brand new laptop that was state of the art. And I'm like, you're not from where you're trying to pretend you're from. Like, what is your story? Who are you?
We're from the suburbs.
And so that was when I felt like I was like, gosh, we're an awful lot alike. And I really forgot the point. So maybe keep talking. I'll remember why I started telling you about his bed. Sorry.
Well, I guess maybe I was just talking about educate. Just in general, like our parents, and especially my mom, she knew that because of what she was trying to build and instill, there was a type of future that she wanted for me and my brothers and sisters, that the education system might not have gotten it.
So he says to me, after, I guess, he said, so, like, first time I finally am agreeing to study with him.
I know what it is.
And he said, so you're Italian? Because my grandfather, who was raised in Glasgow, Scotland, is actually 100% Italian. And then my grandmother, who's also Scottish, was from Glasgow, and they met in Lee, Massachusetts, because they both had Scottish accents. So, of course, people put them together when they immigrated. But I'm got a ton of Italian in me, and I look a lot more Italian than Scottish.
You do, yeah.
And so he said, so you're Italian. Does that mean you can cook? Because my mother told me never to marry a woman who couldn't cook. First time I rung out there, I was like, yeah, I can cook, because I could boil pasta and add classico to spaghetti sauce. And so when we get married, I've been hearing about the importance of cooking this whole time, and he's had my classico and spaghetti sauce and wasn't impressed. And we used to we'd make chicken quesadillas in the Gooch Dillard kitchen,
Really?
On a Friday night.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, they're still very sentimental, that dish for us. And so cooking was very important. And so I go to the first Thanksgiving at his house after we eloped in the woods and emailed his parents.
So you didn't tell any family?
No, we emailed them after.
I emailed them afterwards.
You emailed them?
My mom was like, what? And
She wrote back and she said in all caps, you went into the woods and you did what?
Oh my gosh.
So you go to the first Thanksgiving after
Yes.
you eloped.
So that was July that we eloped, and then I went to Thanksgiving that November.
I mean, your husband and wife there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were stuck.
And
with
what
me.
do you remember?
Well, she had
You didn't get the gravy passed to you.
Well, no. I was sitting like a student trying to learn how to cook these dishes. And
Oh, my mom.
she loved that I couldn't cook. And so she would
She was hiding, not showing you what she was doing.
She wouldn't show me anything. And I would sit there like a hawk waiting, and then I finally would have to leave the room.
She shows
for a
it now.
second.
She gave her the rest. She loves. It's funny how things turn out. When you have babies, everything turns out. But I remember my mom, she would just be like, "Oh, just a pinch."
Yeah.
Like, how much was that? Oh, just don't.
She'd wait till I turned my back for 1 second, and everything would be suddenly done and in the oven. I'd be like, how did this happen? And so I remember sitting at the table, and I'd never seen anything like it. There must have been 14 side dishes, and part of them were Caribbean, inspired.
Oh, yeah.
Part of them were
plantain, ackee
Southern
saltfish,
cooking.
rice and peas. Boy.
Listen to him
He's
go.
getting hungry.
I mean, it's
I know.
really important to him. And so I sit and I look at him and I burst into tears, and I'm like, I am never. Is this what you mean when you say cook? And when I tasted him, it was like this orchestra of flavors and textures. I was like, how did they
Mom
even
can
come
cook.
up with this?
And my dad can cook too.
The plantain.
That's the thing. Jamaican, they say, "Can you cook?" Boy,
It's really-
get a wife who can cook.
And I just cried at the table, and I was like, I'm never going to be able to do this for you, ever. His mom looks so proud. And his dad tells that story every time I see him. He's in town probably right this second. He just got here.
Actually, there's two stories to tell.
I want to hear the second one.
That's one story. The next story was a couple years later, how she was very comfortable and everything. And my dad made oxtail that time. And he says, be careful, Laura, it's hot. And everybody's eating the food. I mean, my little brother's eating. When we're kids, we eat hot food. Man.
Talking spicy hot.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, no, it's hot sauce.
Well, she puts she put the hot sauce on it too. And Laura's going like this. I'm like, yo, like, be careful. This is real hot sauce. Not little chalupa you get at the Mexican. This is some real deal. She's like, oh, no, I'm good. I like hot food. And all of us are watching. And, man, she takes that one bite. She's like, woo, this is hot. And she's crying. And my dad is cracking up. Like, he's like, and my mom's like.
She
It was like a tryout.
Yeah.
Yes.
She wouldn't take.
Is she watching? Should we be careful
No,
here?
nah, she's not.
Okay.
She might be.
I just want to make sure.
She's
Okay, this is on the internet,
Our
guys.
daughter has a champ swim meet coming up in a couple days, so both
Tomorrow.
of them will come. Oh yeah, so they're both going to be down.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was like, I had a girlfriend from boarding school who also went to UVA who lived in Charlottesville still. And her family was half Indian. And so she really understood cooking. And it was very similar to a lot of the West Indian dishes. So I took little samples of like all 14 side dishes and thank you for these lovely leftovers. And I went straight to her house after this Thanksgiving.
Dissected them, John. I'm like, where are you going?
You reverse engineered your Thanksgiving
I'm like,
dinner?
where are you going with all the food?
Is that really what happened?
She's like, I'm going to my friend's house. I'm on a mission. And man, I'm telling you
She
what,
wrote
for
out instructions.
months, she was like perfecting
For a year.
these recipes.
For Thanksgiving the next year?
Yes.
Stop it.
Yes.
He
She-
gained
That
so
is
much weight.
amazing.
He
She
ate
was
nothing
like,
but Thanksgiving.
we're having Thanksgiving here.
At your crib, at
yes,
your house.
at our house.
And the family's coming to you.
Oh no, we didn't do that.
We did Christmas. They came for
yeah,
Christmas.
they did.
And you
And
cooked
then
for
I cooked,
everybody?
and I cooked all their dishes.
And my dad was like, and my mom was like,
I had to work hard.
But your dad was completely good because
Hey.
he loves some good food.
yeah, boy.
Well, and he was kind of on my. It was kind of. He was rude me. You
Oh,
knew what was going on.
Dad would always. That's the funny thing about Dad.
he's
Dad
always
was
been my
always
friend.
like, he's like, I love you. You're my daughter. Don't matter what nothing, you know. And that's the funny thing. Going back to it is my mom is just very protective of her firstborn.
That's it.
Oh, yeah.
Because
That's
she
it.
It's just
grew
a
up.
mom's love.
She
Totally
grew
get
up
it.
in the
Yeah.
Dutch system.
Yeah.
The Dutch system is everybody is together.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So she grew up. Most of her friends were white.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that's why when she tell me stories about where she grew up, she's like, "Oh, it doesn't matter." Da, da, da. Well, Mom, what you think gonna happen? You grow up. I'm in the suburbs, and that's all I know, right? You know what I'm saying? So I was like,
And she's beautiful.
right? So I was like, a brown-eyed, brown-haired girl,
Yeah.
Italian, love it. You know what I'm saying?
She's not really
she
that
wants
Italian,
to cook.
though.
She really wants to
learn
cook.
how to cook.
Yeah.
She's reverse engineering side dishes
Dude, I'm
in the
telling you,
dorms.
she got a degree in that one, baby. She did it. She went, but she was determined. She like really went out and hey, 15 years. That's how you stay 15 years. You do things like that. I mean, that was
I
amazing.
feel
15
like
years,
the
but
more-
15 years starting in college.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So
no,
we know
20
each
years
other
if you
for
start
18,
college.
I mean, that is
Yeah.
the real deal, considering it started in college.
In a
Yeah.
kind of pressured place. Like, you had
Yeah.
to determine you really meant it. you
Totally.
know?
Yeah.
I think as I've been a mom for going on 14 years, nearly 14 over, I think I've come to like really respect his mom, you know, because the more I've had to go to bat, the more I've had to advocate on behalf of, the more I've had to protect this young
You
woman,
gain perspective.
I'm like amazed at how fiercely protective I am of her, like how I would die for her, you know, and have seen myself nearly die for her, I feel like at some points. And like because it's hard raising a teenager. I mean, it's a weird world we're living in.
Raising a 3-year-old, I can't
Yeah,
imagine a
it gets
teenager.
kind
Good
of, your
night.
heart gets more in, like the stuff they face, it's
Well, she ain't
unreal.
got no phone.
And I think at that point,
TikTok
I just,
No boyfriends.
You got the baseball bat at the
Oh
time.
my gosh. Yeah, I'm a black belt
it's made me
certified.
really, I understand her, like I'm not
By
defensive
way of
anymore.
Bruce Lee School of Black Belt.
That's my point. Is like, I actually like reverence her as opposed to being defensive. Like, why do you hate me? I understand her. Like, this is her son, and who are you? Do you know? And
Totally get it.
so I feel like I actually deeply love her at this point. It wasn't a really easy, like, oh, hi, welcome, come on in.
Sure.
It was tense, for good reason.
So how about this?
Yeah.
20 years together, considering the time at UVA.
Yeah.
A Scottish shortbread business.
Right. UVA will teach you how to do something with your life.
We have
anything.
some boxes here.
Yeah.
How do we get to this point?
How do we get to this point? Well, I mean, how we got here, you mean? I mean, you know what? I think we always were going to, props to our parents. They actually were entrepreneurs too. They dibbled and dabbled in some stuff. Her mom ran a business, did a horse farm. They did the bakery thing on the horse farm. Her grandmother ran an inn up in Massachusetts. My mom she was like ahead of her time. She did like a tanning booth, aerobic studio. Like, yeah, like those are the thing now in California. Like, and she did it, but it was in like Montclair, like Virginia. Like, you know what I'm saying? There was nothing there, and nobody was like, I need a tan. You know, like they're like, no, I'm gonna play tennis and like go play racquetball or something like that. You know, so we always had it in our mind to do something. She shows me the box in her room. I see grandma on the box with her dog Rugby. And I'm like, oh, what's that? You know, so I had worked in food industry a little bit in high school, so I was like, okay, I might quit school and do this one of these days, you know. So grandma, though, she sees the first business. She
graduated, by the way.
Yeah, I graduated.
Class of 08.
Woo! And so she sees what we're doing. We got a little digital photography type business, digital media business. However, it's all contingent on me. There's no way in the world I could ever leave it to somebody else and make any sort of real headway income-wise. This thing, though, the potential of it was awesome.
Yeah,
I mean,
scale this.
There's so many things that we could do with it. And so, obviously, you start at the markets. Grandma buys us a mixer. She brought down pans on the train on the Amtrak.
This is Laura's grandma.
Laura's grandma. She's 91 or 92 now.
She's come on the show.
She
Remember
had,
what you
yeah, that's right.
She's awesome.
Yeah.
She loves Anwar.
Yeah, she's cool. So she actually, after 10 years of marriage, she showed me the recipe. Now, honestly, we did ask for it. We asked for the recipe. You know,
when you had to get to year 10 before
yeah,
you would get the recipe.
It's like,
prove to me this is going to work.
Yeah, the Scottish people don't play around.
We
either.
come from really strong families. Can you imagine? Like,
I
strong
can
people.
I think we all can tell here.
Yeah, so grandma, she showed me how to make it.
Which is good for being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, so chutzpah. Yeah, so she showed me, and she told us the ins and outs. Actually, she was like, okay, get in the wineries, go to the grocery stores, she just gave us the blueprint. She gave me the recipe, and Laura, her these stories on the back. Can you see all that? These stories on the back, the way this first box, she's like, I want us to look like bunnies, you know, and you're gonna be the black bunny. And I'm like, okay, you know.
I've never been able to demo. Like, I'll be in the middle of DC talking to these very serious people at lunch in Whole Foods on P Street, and I'm like,
we're bunnies.
and this is my husband, and he's the big black bunny,
Yeah,
and I always giggle.
We should tell the packaging story.
Can we tell this packaging story?
Talk about the wedding.
Do you mind?
No, do it.
Neil Williamson's watching. He says reverse engineering Thanksgiving. That would be a great movie title. He's very much enjoying the interview. Neil Williamson, we love you here.
That's awesome. I don't know if, can the camera see this? I don't know how.
They can see some of it. J-Dubs, can you find maybe from the website and we can
the
get
wedding package?
The wedding package.
So this Scottish shortbread has rose, vanilla, and lemon in it. And Anwar and I, as you know, if you've been watching for the whole show, we eloped in the middle of the woods. So that morning, he had an 18-hour break from summer camp because he got a job as a summer camp counselor to be near me in Massachusetts. Mm-hmm. And that morning he said, will you marry me today? Because we couldn't get our families to cooperate to come to a wedding because he was an undergrad. I had technically just graduated, and so it was that summer, and he was still an undergrad. And our families were like, no, we're not coming to a wedding. Finish school, knock it off, don't be crazy. And so we had all the paperwork in place. We had the rings. He had bought them, and then he used his entire, all of his earnings at the end of the
Summer camp season.
to pay him completely off.
I think I made like 4 or
Very
5 G's.
sweet.
Jeez. For a college kid, that's
was
a good,
a lot.
That's good money.
You can go to Florida, go beach week, spring
So
break.
many things you could do other than buy rings,
Right.
right?
Yeah, what
I
are you
wasn't
doing?
going to say that.
Buying rings.
And so he said, will you marry me today? And I was like, if you can find somebody who will marry us today, I will marry you today.
$50 does it.
And so he called the Justice of Peace. They said, we can do it at 2 o'clock. I said, ask if we can do it in the woods like on Braveheart. And
It was a lady who was
the lady
like
was
totally
like,
for it.
okay. So we meet at the woods.
She was like, you know what? This is shaking up my month. Like,
So you pick up the phone.
call the
you call
office, the city office of, what is it,
Lee.
Lee, Massachusetts.
Find someone you've never met.
In the phone book.
On the phone.
Justice
and
of
say,
the Peace.
Will you marry us in the woods?
Yep.
Really?
Yeah.
That is really crazy
That
when
is
you put it that way.
crazy.
Right, and it was the first, and in my head, I'm like, okay, if it doesn't, like, if nobody, I guess I'll just, it's not happening. Somebody picks up, hello? I'm like, and you know how you Google stuff, like how to get married?
Yeah.
I was like, how do you get married? Like,
That is a great story.
well, come on down and
It was
you
like
fill
the
out some
yellow
paper.
books,
And
too.
yeah, it had the yellow book, and Justice of the Peace, and and come in and fill out, and you have your ID, and then you sign some papers, and we'll, get you on your way. And
That's
then
your $5.
Yeah, that was $5, and then the person to come out was $50.
Oh,
$55.
I think it was like $50.
we're
Like,
smart.
I love
Dude.
it.
that's a good gig to marry people for $50.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways,
And so we lived in the woods, and then anyway, this story is is reminiscent of that. So it's Anwar. He's a big buck bunny, and he's wearing his Alan tartan because every Scottish family has their own plaid, and so Alan tartan.
Judah's got it on screen.
You got
Nicely
it.
done, Judah.
So he's wearing his Alan tartan. I have some Alan tartan on mine. I'm the white mommy bunny, and our pastor of the last 15 years is Bill Copeland, and so he has
he was
this
a UVA
great
football player, by the way.
Yeah, he was. And he has this fantastic Scottish last name. And so we looked it up, and he does have a tartan. So we put him in his Copeland tartan, which didn't really happen. But we told the story in the back of the box of that is true to form of tell us about how you got married. And we're telling our children the story. But we wove this part in because when we renewed our vows, it was at this very rock in North Carolina, which looks exactly like this. And Bill Copeland went down and officiated that. And we had
We renewed our vows. Yeah.
him and his wife, and then us and 14 friends.
Bunch of other friends. Yeah.
All gathered there the weekend before last, and we had the most beautiful vow renewal.
It was
That's
cool.
And so we were
Amazing.
kind of
cool.
weaving both stories into this one. And it was really special.
Yeah,
But
it just so happened one of my friends got married last year, and I was in his wedding, and so I wore the suit
yeah, I had this,
because
we're
they bought
always-
us suits. So I wore the suit. I was like
Great.
balling.
It
Like,
was perfect.
Yeah, it fit.
And they loved
Yeah.
it too. They loved that.
Yeah,
I was like,
yeah.
you have really good taste, Kristen.
So
Yeah.
they came to the vow renewal.
Yeah.
They came, down there.
So
Weston
do you want to
Christian.
talk about what it tastes like and stuff?
Yeah, so the taste of it's rose, vanilla, lemon. And I mean, this goes back to Laura's family's roots up in upstate New York, Massachusetts. There's a family up there called the Harneys. And they produce a tea, it's teas, many teas, and their company is called Harney and Sons Teas. They're huge, very big worldwide distribution.
Oh, this chair. Oh, sorry. I should have asked you to reach. We're adding a little action shots to our. Sorry, go on.
All right, pick yourself up.
We're good.
Trying to open that.
What do you want to do? Oh, yeah.
So, Harney and Sons.
I was just telling somebody on QVC or somebody the other day how some stuff almost happened on QVC. I almost dropped some shortbread on QVC. But anyways, so let me open it up.
I just wanted to kind of show what you're talking about.
All right, so we what was I saying? Oh yeah, so we get in touch. Laura's great entrepreneurial mind. She gets in touch with the people that are running Harney's now. John Harney was running it, and when he was running it, he was doing it with doing markets, doing a little tea room or whatever. And her grandmother sold tea to him.
Would you like some shortbread?
So we'll give you some too, Judy.
My 3-year-old son
Likes
this
this
is his
stuff?
favorite dessert.
It's actually
No,
not too
seriously.
sweet. Yeah,
Seriously.
it's cool. And I guess what John Harney liked and what Grandma was bringing to the table was a cookie item, a tea biscuit, They call them biscuits. They're something that was going to go well with tea, go well with coffee, and it wasn't too sweet. Everything, if you look at most of the stuff in our culture, was sugar, sugar, sugar.
Sure.
Because there wasn't a lot of nuance to it, and it wasn't fresh ingredients, whatever. We use real butter, King Arthur brand flour, all that stuff. And so when we get back in contact with them, they know the story already. Emmerich Harney and Mike Harney, they're like, all right, we'll give it a try. Emmerich, shout out to Emmerich. Yeah, he kind of bit the bullet, He's coming up with a new idea, probably talking to his family around dinner, and he's like, hey, I got this thing, da-da-da. And they're like, all right, fine, whatever, And so, it's like they gave us a shot, and it's been really cool because most of our flavors now actually have their tea in it. They've allowed us to use their logo on it because it's sort of a collaboration partnership. Every idea we have, we kind of partner with them. The artwork, we have an in-house designer, Susan Xie, who's awesome. Is that how I say her name? Xie, Susan Xie.
X-I-E.
X-I-E. My Mandarin is bad. Sorry, Susan.
I don't know how to. I've tried. Yeah. She's tried to teach me, but I don't.
We love you. Sorry. And so everything about it, though, they knew, okay, shortbread goes well with this. So, we're like, all right, you got cherry blossom tea. You want to do this flavor. You got matcha tea. You want to do this flavor. You have a wedding. They have a wedding tea. It's an herbal tea, but it's got the rose in it. It's got rose petals in it. It's got rose smell. And lemon. So when we look at the ingredients of the,
Prince William had it at his wedding.
Prince William had it at his wedding. Yeah. Not this stuff, the tea.
Harney's wedding tea.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So it's like, okay, if they've got this tea and this sells well for them, let's see if it goes well in the shortbread.
And some mother-in-law, mother of the brides.
Yeah. So people are buying this as wedding gifts. Somebody, funny story. So Laura's second cousin, I think, bought 50 of these boxes. Now, 50 shortbread boxes is a lot. It's a big purchase. Her husband sees the purchase. Oh, no, never mind.
Anyway, it was really, really nice. Yeah.
I thought it was funny.
It was so nice and generous. Thank you.
It was funny. I thought it was funny.
Melissa Key's such a sweet couple. She's watching right now.
So, anyway, it's rose, vanilla, lemon. I'm a live wire.
I love it.
For instance, I didn't tell my wife this. There's a coupon, 20% coupon. I love CVille. I love CVille. Put in the discount code.
We really made it?
I just did it before the show.
Amazing.
And you can get that on the lower third for the screen, Jay.
Yeah. So I love CVille. So all the viewers of the show, you get a little extra discount for just tuning in. So nobody else will know about it but you.
And that's at
AlanScottishShortbread.com. Mm-hmm. And I think you can get to it through the Facebook page too, maybe.
Yeah, and he's got the graphic on the screen.
So
we'll put it on the website.
Yeah.
Spotify. We'll put it everywhere, Jay.
I was just in the Virginia shop, and
Tiffany. What?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if
she also carries,
does she have this stuff?
She has our wedding.
Yes, she's been a good proponent of all our flavors. Because I'll tell you the truth, we started in Whole Foods. We started selling bigger quantities in Whole Foods, and they did have some of our flavors. But then when we went to distribution, they streamlined us. They said just one box, just to make it easy for us. So all of our smaller stores are like, no, this is a cool item. Like, we want your flavor. So shout out to Tiffany for seeing our vision, because the big box stores are like, nobody wants bunnies. Like, just give us this retail-looking box, And all the little grocery market type boutiques are like, no, that's why people
come in here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So bring the flavors,
Because it's a gift. I think it's not like a next to Oreo or whatever.
So let's do this. Tell everybody the massive distribution you have here, like where we could find. I mean, they got a Whole Foods deal.
We do.
And Whole Foods did just decide to carry a few more flavors.
They did come back on it, yeah. So they are going to have the celebration. They're going to.
You guys love that.
We love that. Whole Foods, I can't really get on board with people. People are like, oh, the monsters, Amazon and Whole Foods, da da da. I'm like, look, brother, like when you're on my side of the thing and you want a shot, you don't care where it's coming from.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
They made it so that we could pay rent and get going.
Right.
I totally get
it. On the flip side,
it's because they don't have things like having to meet payroll and paying bills, and our livelihoods are based on the decisions we make with these brands.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I realized
totally relate.
that they are crushing small boutiques for sure, and that is heart-wrenching. I think the one thing they have done really well is the I Love Local program. So for someone like us, or there's a ton of other people who I'm sure have been on here too, it made it so that we went from being hobbyists at the farmers market to business owners. Yeah, because it quickly became like one Whole Foods became two Whole Foods, became the whole
you went from like
Atlantic
a lifestyle hobby to a company.
Yeah, and pallets getting picked up at our, warehouse and our bakery, and
so what's the?
It's pretty fantastic.
It's 2 o'clock.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh gosh.
2 o'clock. 2 o'clock. Let me throw this to you. Hey, can I eat this one too?
Please eat all of it. Yeah.
This is all for you guys.
I got more questions for you here.
Can beat you.
What is the game plan to continue growing and booming the brand?
We were just talking about it last night. We went to the movies and everything. We get our best ideas on our dates. Honestly, I'll tell you what. I'm a weird dude. I pray. No, no. I meditate. I sit. I just. I need time just to kind of be quiet and be still, and jot and journal and have ideas kind of flow through.
I don't think you're that weird.
And thank you.
I think you're pretty cool.
And then we listen to people. Customers will always tell us, "Oh, you should do that. You should do that. You should be in Wegmans." Well, you know what? It might happen. There's been a lot of cool people that have been with us from the get-go. And this girl that worked at Whole Foods, her sister works for a distributor. She sees me in Wegmans one day. I'm getting pancakes for the kids. It's my day to make breakfast. And she sees me and she's like, this is 2 years later. She remembered. And this is how CVille is. People love you, They'll love on you. She says, how'd Wegmans, are you in yet? And she just works for a store or whatever. I'm like, no. She's like, really? She's like, come with me. Little girl, about this tall. She's like, come with me. She's like walking around the store looking for this store manager guy, going in offices. She's like, oh.
And she doesn't even work there?
She doesn't work there, but she has a relationship with it because she knows she's a distributor, works for a distributor. She's in there all the time. So she goes in there, finds the guy, and makes sure I have a meeting that day. I'm in shorts,
You're about
tennis
to make
shoes,
breakfast.
but I'm like, you know what? Opportunity knocks. Gotta go. So.
Did you have your kids with you?
No, it was a surprise, actually. They didn't know I was bringing pancakes, making pancakes. So I go talk to the guy. I leave my cart right there and there. She says, let's go. I'm like, okay, let's go.
Right?
Yeah. So I go and meet with the guy. He's like, yeah, we've had your shortbread. I like your shortbread. I've had it at the markets. So it's funny. Most big accounts I've had have actually been by way of demos, being in Whole Foods. I almost left the demo early, but I got an account with Williams-Sonoma at one time. So there's been, we got on QVC because we almost left that demo up in Philadelphia for a nice store. Was it Chalet? Valley Forge Flowers. The QVC rep happened to come that day. Almost didn't go. We gave him the word that we were going to do 2 days of demoing. We could have said no to the second day. It was Philadelphia, and it was the first weekend that the sun came out, and there was nobody in the stores. We weren't going to make any money that day or sell anything, but we still stayed because we wanted to honor our word. So everything's been by relationship. Everything's come because somebody wanted to put their neck out for us because they knew that we were doing our best.
That store owner,
hustling.
We never asked her. She is on QVC, and we never asked her any favors, and she went out of her way to go from one barn across to her other barn to introduce us to the gourmet agent for QVC, and it was just kind.
There's people that pay tons of money to get a seat, just to have time with an agent, just to pitch. I had the demo, everything. So there's a lot of things that have happened where it's been. This is a long way of saying it. I don't know exactly, but we have ideas of, okay, maybe it's Wegmans, it's Harney & Sons, Whole Foods is pushing out. You might see my face in a Whole Foods again because we're doing demos again. For a whole year, nobody could demo in the stores.
Well, and we're about to birth by the end of this year, 3 new flavors. And we're gearing up we just got our first 2 orders from Whole Foods for the 4th quarter, and they're pretty massive. So thank you. Thank you. No. We're on this side of thank you. Because now we have to bake all that shortbread. Yeah, it's so good. It's so good. And so I think we're going to have our hands full for the rest of this year, especially when we launch 3 new SKUs. And then if Wegmans does take us on, we're really going to have our hands full.
Yeah, I thought about Costco.
So you guys are really on the cusp of really blowing up here.
Could be.
Feels like it's really blown up. And at 2020,
The
we doubled our sales in 2020.
Yeah, if you have a distributor.
People are home, e-commerce, Black Lives Matter, didn't hurt. Very helpful, honestly. And people started to
people and NBC 29. Here's
the Jerry Miller Show.
Jerry Miller
I
Show.
Love CVille.
I Love CVille.
No, but like genuinely, it is really good. And once
Thank
someone
you.
tries it one time,
that's what's up.
What's the rate of reorder?
We,
you
know what? I'm
I
not
feel like
good
I'm
with
on
my
the
analytics.
Shark Tank, and I just don't know the answer.
Yeah. What's your percentage?
What's your gross profit?
Mark Cuban's like, I'm out just because you don't know anything. Like,
it's good. It's real good.
Barbara,
have you considered doing
a lot
a Shark
of same
Tank?
names more than once.
Well, you know what? Our agent actually is Damon's agent on QVC.
That is amazing.
Yeah, so
you guys would
talked
crush
about
Shark
it.
Tank.
we've talked about it. What's up?
You guys would crush Shark Tank.
You know what? It might be kind of fun. They do like their percentage, though. They do. We have actually had some friends that have been in Whole Foods. I've
That's
met.
the dirty little secret there.
Yeah.
Shark Tank.
Yeah.
Right? What he's
They'll
about to
get you.
say.
It's like 12 or 15% or something like that.
I think
Because they're
there was
saying
a-
they're putting you on national
No matter
television
what.
to give you so much exposure.
Yeah, even if you get
even
the
if they
deal.
don't invest.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. What is true, which is true. NBC 29, QVC, same thing. So, yeah.
There was a season when I would have done anything to have been on Shark Tank, and that season was when there just wasn't any cash flow, which I think happens to all growing companies, which is why people go on to get capital so they can keep growing.
Yep.
And at that point, I applied many times to that show.
Yep.
At this point, but it just gets lost. You kind of need an agent to get on there. But at this point, I don't know. I'd have to really pause and consider that one.
That's the next thing I was going to say is as an entrepreneur, this is our entrepreneur tidbit, business tidbit. Any information to remember as being a business person, don't try to go too fast.
Yeah.
Like you can't if you have a model. Was it Not Good to Great? That's a good book too. But the E-Myth, right?
Oh, that's my book.
That's your joke?
I love that book, dude.
That's a good book.
Everyone should read E-Myth Mastery.
Gerber.
Yeah, Michael Gerber.
Yeah.
I mean, work on your business instead of in your business. I didn't mean to
Yeah.
interrupt you.
No, you're right.
that's
And
brilliant.
actually,
That's right.
it's so funny when you talk about happen chance. Laura was taking a walk one day, and she walks out of her old bakery, and there's somebody getting rid of books, and they got rid of that book. It was just in a pile. It was in a pile of books.
And that's how you read it?
That's how she got
And
it.
it was like
That
a
has
day
been
when
one
I
of
was
the most
That changed.
impactful books. Yeah.
That changed everything.
And
Not
I
felt the
but-
same.
Yeah.
It was like exactly the instructions we needed on exactly that day.
Right.
It was kind of
Exactly. Well,
Guys, anyone
yeah.
watching the show, E-Myth Mastery.
E-Myth, yeah, and that actually sums it up. Just if you're technician oriented, if you're entrepreneur, you need to think, be creative. I mean, whatever. If you're an accountant type and you're very right brain, is that right? That figure out who you are and how you best operate, because you'll probably try to grow too fast or not have the systems in place to operate properly in the season you're in.
I think for both of what we're building, because the climate's so weird, nobody knows if we're going to have a relapse, another shutdown, blah, blah, blah. I feel like homeschooling and e-commerce are the two areas where we feel like
Those are both
this
brilliant
is secure.
fields. Oh, for sure.
Like no matter what hits, if we're quarantined, this is going to work. If we, for educating our child, we're not going to get halfway through the year and then have to figure out how do we do this.
That was a mess.
It's already all been kind of sorted out, and we're acting instead of reacting to the volatility of our times.
I love it. I think you guys are making a great call.
Yeah.
E-com and homeschool, no doubt about that.
And we love homeschooling.
And you guys are
Which
good
is
at
weird, but we really love it.
And you're good at it. Yeah, and this guy's
thank you.
Most
incredibly
movie
patient. I
stars,
get the
though,
impression.
it's
Well,
that can be
he's so
patient.
kind, and
Yeah.
but also our community there, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just follow that week's
You know what we
directions.
should totally do? And this is coming on this is the longest show we have ever done.
Sorry.
It's 2 times. No. I've loved the show. We should do a part 2.
Yeah.
We'll get you guys back on and have this. I thoroughly enjoy this. Can we get out again, and Judah, if you can get it a lower third on screen for us, where we can buy your shortbread.
It's on the local spots. Virginia Shop.
Right, East Market Street, Rock,
right
Paper,
here.
Scissor, Blue Ridge Country
Market
Store,
Street Market, right?
Market Street
Virginia
Market,
Shop.
Yes.
Happy Cook, Mona Lisa Pasta,
Kindness Cafe.
Shenandoah Joe's,
Shenandoah Joe's.
Foods of All Nations, Ivy Nursery, Boar's Head Inn and Resort Gift Shop, Whole Foods.
Yeah.
Kind of driving around Charlottesville in my head right now.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, you guys got all the good
where did we
spots.
miss?
You got all the good spots.
It's
We used to
so
have some
fun.
more. Some of our stores closed down.
I get really jealous when he does the deliveries. I'm like, I want to go to Ivy
Yeah, 'cause
Nursery.
you want to talk to
She likes going to Ivy.
So
I like going to
pretty.
Shenandoah.
Yeah.
That coffee is on point.
Dave, Laura,
Yes,
our friend.
I love him.
So gosh, I wish I did not have a 2:30.
It's all good.
You guys
Hopefully,
are awesome. I would love to do a part 2.
Yeah.
We love hanging out with you.
Yeah.
She likes getting done up. She gets
Yeah,
her
I
hair
also-
done, get the nails. She's like, I'm gone.
She's a beautiful woman.
She is very beautiful.
Beautiful woman here.
I'm gonna take her out. She's when she does, she's like, okay, we gotta go out because I just got my hair done. Like,
Oh, so you guys are going out after the show?
Yeah.
you gonna do
Yeah.
something?
Afternoon date. This is what you
Yeah,
got to do as
baby.
parents. I totally
Yeah,
get it.
yeah.
So-
my wife and I too.
So
I
yeah,
love
on
that.
one end, having a 13-year-old kid worked out.
Oh, because you got a babysitter.
Yes, sir.
And is she good with your younger?
She
She's
is,
good.
but we also have a little camera.
Okay.
So we peek
Nanny
in.
Tell her right now.
I scream. No, I got a nanny cam. I'm
We
like,
do, so we
I'm
like-
Willow, get off of the sofa. Do not
So
jump
at
on
any
Sky.
point, we're
Like,
checking in on them.
Yeah, like I can talk in everything.
And
Yeah.
hopefully your dad's there by now. We got to
Got to figure
when
that out.
we get
Yeah, you got to.
Grandpa, you're on
But
babysitting
we're
duty
just
now.
big fans of Disney Plus, too.
Yeah.
Boy Meets World.
We are big fans of Disney
Girl
Plus.
Meets World.
Laura
you so much.
and Anwar Allen, guys, are amazing people. Buy the shortbread, buy the shortbread, buy the shortbread. We will undoubtedly do a part 2 for those that are asking. We will continue to feature business owners that are making the community better. They are.
Thank you.
They are.
Thank
Hey, but for real, Jerry is doing his thing. Judah's doing his thing. It's a small team, a small mighty machine. So I think you guys are doing awesome stuff too.
Thank you.
The systems are changing because of people like you, because you're building something that lasts and you're architecting a place where people can have these conversations. So thank you very much.
Thank you for saying that.
Amen.
I agree.
Thank you very, very much for saying that. That was
Awesome.
nice. This is the I Love CVille Show where we feature the best of Charlottesville, Virginia.
Awesome.
Thank you guys for joining us on a Thursday. Take care.
Awesome. Cool. That was fun.
That was really fun.
I looked at the clock the first time it was 2 o'clock.
It was 2. I was like,
Amazing.
Oh, thank you so much. I just started keeping.